I never imagined my quiet little life out here could flip upside down over something as ridiculous as where a neighbor parks her car. But if you've ever met someone who thinks rules don't apply to them, you know exactly where I'm coming from. Picture this. It's early, not even 7, the kind of morning where the sky is just barely turning gold over the soybeans. And I see her, Karen, parked right on the edge of my field. Not near the gravel, not in a ditch, but full on, wheels sunk in my freshly seeded dirt, like she's claiming a new colony for the Karen Empire. You know that feeling when you see something so brazen you have to squint just to make sure it's real? That's where I was, coffee cup halfway to my mouth, already knowing, deep down. This wasn't just a slip-up. This was Karen drawing a line in the mud. Let me back up a sec, just so you get the full picture. Karen's been a thorn in my side since the day she moved in. She's the kind of neighbor who notices if you trim your trees a little lopsided or if your tractor rattles past the mailbox too fast. And me, I tried to be civil, really. I waved, smiled. Let her have her opinions. But she never wanted peace, only control. And that morning, watching her sit in her car scrolling through her phone like she had all the time in the world, I hit my limit. I called her up. Karen, you can't park on my property. And she just laughs. That high-pitched, syrupy laugh that makes your teeth ache. Oh, come on. It's just a few minutes. Don't be so uptight. Like I was the one out of line for wanting my own boundaries respected. But a few minutes turned into an hour, and there she was, window down, sunglasses on, acting like the queen of all she surveyed. I tried to ignore her, I really did. But the longer I watched, the more that hot, buzzing frustration built up inside. I mean, what are you supposed to do? Call the sheriff every time someone decides your land's a parking lot? I was past talking. So I grabbed the heavy-duty chains from the barn, the ones I keep for emergencies, and let myself picture how this was about to go down. Not out of revenge, but out of pure, exhausted necessity. See, people like Karen only learn when you draw a line they can't cross. So I hooked those chains onto her rear axle, my heart pounding. The whole time, I knew, with every neighbor probably peeking through their blinds, this was about to be a show. Karen saw me finally, scrambling out, shouting, "Hey, what are you doing?" But I didn't flinch. I pulled, slow and steady, inching her car off my land and toward the blacktop, tires groaning, dust flying, her protests rising with every foot. You should have seen her face. When those wheels hit the pavement, all that confidence evaporated, replaced by this wild-eyed disbelief, like the universe had finally set itself right. And here's where it got cinematic. Because by then, folks started gathering. Couple of them shaking their heads, a few, I swear, looked downright giddy. I didn't say a word, just left a note tucked under her wiper. Property boundaries are not suggestions. Stay off my farm. Simple, cold, unforgettable. Karen, on the other hand, stormed out of her car, red-faced, lips curling into some angry retort. But for the first time, she looked small, stripped of her power, her car marooned on the roadside for everyone to see. I figured that was the end of it. Lesson delivered, world restored. But nope, this was just Act 1. By late afternoon, Karen was back, standing in the road with her phone glued to her ear, yelling for backup like she was summoning a SWAT team. Turns out, she called the HOA, spun some wild story about how I'd attacked her car, threatened her personal safety, and was basically a menace to the neighborhood. Yeah, that happened. And just when I thought it couldn't get any crazier, she took it public, blasted photos all over the local Facebook group, chains still dangling from her bumper, with captions that made me sound like a lunatic vigilante. The comments section exploded. Half the neighborhood took sides. Some folks, honestly, cheered me on for standing up. Others, well, they weren't so sure. Meanwhile, Karen's blowing up my phone, threatening lawsuits, talking about her rights like she's quoting the Constitution. But see, what Karen never figured was, I'd been documenting every step, every warning, every single time she crossed that line. So while she was busy playing the victim, I was sitting on a mountain of proof. That night, just as I was settling in, headlights swept across my window. Karen again, but this time with a moving truck. I watched from the porch as she started unloading boxes, looking to make some big, dramatic move. Maybe she thought a bigger show of force would spook me. Maybe she thought I'd finally back down. I didn't. I just walked out, chains in hand, cool as a cucumber, and let her know, without a single word, that nothing was changing. If she was here to try round two, she'd better be ready for the same ending. Next morning, the sun was barely up when I saw her, arms crossed, jaw set, a couple of our mutual neighbors hovering nearby, waiting to see who would blink. First, she opened her mouth, probably about to accuse me of harassment or call in another fake emergency, but I didn't let her get that far. "Karen, this ends today. My farm, my rules." She sputtered, fuming, tried to rally her audience, but no one was buying it anymore. I hooked that chain back onto her car, this time making sure she couldn't drive off and turn it into some wild chase. Scene. Her phone rang. More calls, more drama, but I was ready. Everything was on video, on paper, as clean and legal as could be. She could scream, curse, or threaten, but that morning, as I walked away, it finally landed for her. Nobody, not her, not the HOA, not the neighborhood peanut gallery, gets to dictate what happens on my land but me. You could feel the shift. Neighbors who'd been skeptical now watched in a whole new light, some even coming over later, quietly telling me they were glad someone finally stood up to her. As for Karen, she stormed off. Car left where I'd parked it, the whole thing laid bare for anyone to see. And you know what? That sense of relief, of finally reclaiming my own space, it was better than I expected. I sat out on the porch that night, fields quiet, moonlight spilling over everything, and thought, maybe, just maybe, this was over. But then again, with people like Karen, you never really know, do you? Some folks need to learn boundaries the hard way, and if that lesson comes at the cost of a little neighborhood spectacle, so be it. I'll say this much, next time someone thinks about treating my land like their own, they'll remember what happened to Karen and think twice. So what do you think? Was I right to take matters into my own hands, or did I go too far? Drop your thoughts below. I want to hear your wildest stories about neighborhood drama, where you draw the line, and what you'd do if someone tried to steamroll your boundaries. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stick around for more real-life tales that'll make you shake your head and laugh. Because out here, you never know what's coming next. You ever notice how, just when you think a mess is behind you, life's got a way of tossing another curveball your direction? I thought after that last standoff with Karen, I'd earned a little peace, maybe even a chance to sleep in, fix up the fence, catch up on chores. But nah, sometimes trouble doesn't just knock, it brings friends. And this time, I didn't see it coming until it was already blowing through my front gate. It was 2 days after that whole chain-and-tow showdown, sun barely up, dew still clinging to the grass. I was halfway through hauling feed out to the barn when I heard voices, a whole lot of voices. Not angry, not yelling, but hushed, conspiratorial, like a pack of middle schoolers plotting behind the gym. And there, right at the edge of my property, was Karen again. Only she wasn't alone. She'd brought along her cousin Ron, that wiry guy from up the county road. And, would you believe, an actual lawyer in a shiny suit who looked about as comfortable in cow country as a rooster. At a Fox convention, Ron was snapping pictures like he was the star witness on CSI, Rural Edition, while the lawyer guy stood there frowning at a clipboard, shoes sinking in the mud. Karen strutted over, sunglasses on, hair done up like she was heading to the country club. "We're here for a formal boundary inspection," she announced, waving a piece of paper with a flourish. Like she'd just discovered gold under my pasture. I almost laughed, had to bite the inside of my cheek to keep it in. "Is that so?" I said. "Funny, my land survey's been the same since my granddad laid the first fence post. What exactly are you hoping to find?" But that's the thing about people who can't stand to lose. There's always another angle, another excuse, another power move. Karen's lawyer, this guy named Bentley, of course it is, starts talking about encroachments and historical easements, words that sound impressive until you remember you've got all your paperwork in a safe in the house. They claimed part of the old gravel access lane, used by tractors, not cars, was a public right-of-way. I shook my head. "It's not," I said, "and if you want to test it, you better be ready to spend the next year tangled up in county paperwork." Karen just glared, arms folded, but she didn't have her usual swagger. Maybe she realized dragging the law out here wouldn't work like it does online. Then, like some cosmic joke, Mr. Pritchard, my oldest neighbor, the guy who's lived on the hill since Truman was president, ambled over, coffee mug in hand. You folks looking for the old property marker? He called, all dry wit and mischief. I set that stone with Tom's granddad in '69. If you dig it up, you're just going to find a dead squirrel and 2 bottle caps. He winked at me, and for a second, even Karen's lawyer seemed thrown off. But it didn't stop her. After that embarrassment, Karen doubled down. Next thing I knew, she was back online, spinning stories, getting folks riled up about property rights and community standards, even hinting I was the one blocking some imaginary neighborhood initiative. And you better believe people started talking, some worried, some loving the drama, a few quietly sending texts saying, "Hang in there. You're in the right." My phone felt like it might melt from all the notifications. Meanwhile, I kept my head down, kept working, but I started to feel the pressure. One morning, somebody tossed a nasty note in my mailbox. No signature, just a warning to stop making trouble, or else. That's when it started to feel less like a squabble and more like a standoff, and honestly, it rattled me. But you want to know what really tipped the scales? It was a kid, no kidding, a middle schooler named Tyler, who lived 2 houses over. One afternoon, I caught him stacking little rocks by my gate. Thought maybe he was up to mischief, but turns out, he was just trying to help. He'd heard his parents arguing about Karen and figured I might need a barrier to keep the crazies out. He looked up at me, grinned, and said, "You're the only grown-up who doesn't yell around. Here, I hope you win." Sometimes, the universe sends you the encouragement you didn't even know you needed. But the real twist? That same evening, there was a knock at my door. Not the sheriff. Not Karen. Not some HOA suit. No, it was Mrs. Nguyen, one of the newer folks down the lane. She handed me a pie, real, homemade, still warm, and said, "I saw everything. My husband and I, well, we have your back. If you need anything, just holler." She left before I could thank her, but the gesture stuck with me, sweet as cinnamon and sharper than any lawyer's threat. So here's where things truly shifted. See, Karen's crusade ended up backfiring, turning more neighbors against her than she ever imagined. Word got out about her schemes, how she tried to twist the law, how she dragged family into it, and how she kept pushing, even when the evidence and the community weren't on her side. That next week, the HOA board held a closed meeting, didn't invite Karen. Didn't invite me, just handled business. 2 days later, I got a letter, boundary confirmed. No violations found. Case closed. No apology, but that's the way these things go. And Karen? Well, she still drives by slow sometimes, windows up, jaw set. But she doesn't park on my land anymore. Her cousin and the lawyer haven't been seen since. Life settled back down, neighbors waved a little more often, and Tyler's barrier of rocks stayed by the gate, just in case. Still, I keep my chains handy, my paperwork closer, and my sense of humor intact. Because out here, folks, you never know what's coming next. One day it's a sunrise over golden fields. The next it's a parking war that turns into a full-on community saga. If there's a lesson, maybe it's this. Boundaries matter, but kindness and backbone matter even more. You stand your ground, you tell your story, and you let the world see which side of the fence they'd rather be on. Now I'm dying to hear what you all think. Ever had a neighbor like Karen? Did I handle it right? Or would you have done something different? Drop your thoughts, share your stories, and don't forget to subscribe. Hit that like button and keep the conversation rolling. Because out here, the stories never really end, they just get crazier.